Hello, welcome to the round 22 review as we watched the Carlton Football Club lose by 74 points to the Hawthorn Football Club. It was 5 goals 8, 38 to 16 goals 16, 112 in front of 84 odd thousand people on a beautiful day at the MCG. 1:10 p.m. on a Sunday, and we watched a complete capitulation from the Carlton Football Club, and we watched a bloody brilliant Hawthorn team just play one of the most perfect games of football that I think we'll see this season. Wow, that's awful. That was awful. That was disgusting. It was torturous, and it took me by complete surprise. Build up in the week was focused around the 160-year celebration of the club. Took quite a few days to recover, I think mentally and emotionally, from the last round, and kick after the siren, and I didn't really shake that until probably Wednesday, if I'm honest, truly on Thursday, but it took quite some time, and I think for a lot of us as well, we care so much. We care so much about the club, care so much about that rivalry, and I think the way it almost ended as well. And yeah, I've spent the last, not just last week, but the last 5-6 weeks just keeping steadfast in my trust and belief in this group and in this club after the strong position that they found themselves in. And maybe I'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, last week was a bit of a rocking of the foundations, so to speak. And then, pretty quickly, focus was turned into this week and the campaign and the 160-year Heritage Round campaign, the Guernsey, the number of interviews with past players and current players, and we just wheeled out the history and wheeled them out one by one, and that was the preparation externally, I guess, and that was the messaging externally going into this week. I was really excited about the game yesterday. Went with my brother and my sister, caught up for brunch beforehand. Did a bit of a traditional day, went into the city, had lunch, and walked over the bridge to the MCG, and we sort of were chatting amongst ourselves, saying, well, why don't we always do this? We should always do this. We should go get lunch beforehand and walk the bridge, and and you get to the MCG. This is when I knew. This is when I should have known that we fucked up. Steph bought an $80 scarf. For those of you who have been watching this channel for years, you will know why you should not be spending $80 on a scarf pre-game. So yeah, she bought an $80 scarf. Chris bought a hat. We got to the G. We sat in our seats. We had a couple of beers. We soaked it up. We were so excited. For so many years, I was away, and then Steph has been away. Chris has been disinterested in the club, and we finally gotten together, and we go together, and it's so good. And then, yeah, boys come out. Cooter's holding up the ball. Great. Childhood hero, Cooter. Holding up the ball kind of reminded me of the image of John Nichols holding up the ball. Not that I remember it happening, but I remember the photo. John Nichols holding up the ball in our last game at Princess Park. And out they come. Out come the boys with their collars in front of all the legends with this guard of honour. And out they come. And then the game starts. And then there's, before you know it, 2 goals to the Hawks in no time. Forward movement, instinctive movement, proactive movement, quick, in sync, bang. Okay, shit. Thought we actually, to be fair, were somehow still in that game at quarter time, but a number of things had happened. Fogarty and Martin goes, collide. Martin does his hammy. Chincotta's done his hammy. Fogarty's hurt himself. And I thought we actually withstood all of that pretty well and made a pretty solid game of it. I thought we absorbed as much of Hawthorn's best as we could. And unfortunately, that was the most that we saw of Carlton for the rest of the day. The only part of what we saw from Carlton was in the first quarter. That's it. The sun was out, and I'm such an optimist with this club. And I think having been in the position that we were in only 7 weeks ago, whatever it was, it just sort of reinforced and validated my optimism. And I knew there was a particular moment in the second quarter where I just was ready and mentally prepared myself for a 10+ goal belting. And that was when, and I don't even know if this moment means anything to anyone, but it happened right in front of me on the wing. I was sitting level 1 on the wing, and Jesse Motlop and George Hewitt collide with each other on a loose ball. And it just reeked of Essendon 2023 when Jack Silvani kicked the ball into the forward line and Charlie Curnow and Matt Owies both went for the ball, and then they both didn't go for the ball because they weren't in sync mentally, and then the ball ended up going nowhere. And in that moment where Jesse Motlop and George Hewitt collide because they weren't in sync to know whose ball that was and who needed to provide an option for the one who was going to win the ball, in that moment, I literally mentally prepared for a 10-goal belting. I think that one, and also Charlie Curnow. When Charlie Curnow got out into open space, time stood still for me for a split second because I didn't see him in space initially. And then when he got it in space, I thought, oh, how good's this? Finally, Charlie in space. And then he just, I don't know what happened. He saw Zach Williams, didn't see Zach Williams, but then saw him late, changed his mind, lost his power, lost his magic. I likened it to Space Jam when the NBA players lose their talent. When the Monstars take the NBA players' talent and their magic, and it was just a dog of a day. Sat through a number of 10+ goal beltings in my time as a Carlton supporter to know when another one's coming, but I didn't see it coming before the game. There were a number of possibilities that I saw happening, including losing to Hawthorn, but I thought if we lost to Hawthorn it would be close because they would need to play a really good game. But I did not see that coming pre-game, but I saw it pretty quickly. Once we got to that second quarter, we were just nowhere. We were witches' hats. Hawthorn were quick. They were in sync. Oh my God, that was so in sync. They were so connected with one another. You could just tell whatever they did during the week. And I saw a little bit of Hawthorn's preparation during the week. They brought their fathers down and They're so in tune with who they are and what they are. They're a happy team at Hawthorn. They play to win. I watched Sam Mitchell's presser after the game, and he was talking about, like, these are all finals for us. It's been that way for a number of weeks. The reality is our next loss ends our season. They spread the confines of the MCG like no other team I've watched this season do to us. They were so well prepared for everything we were going to do, which seemingly was not much. But they stretched us completely. They used every single millimeter of the MCG to open it all up and then find the holes. It was very impressive. They handball quickly in traffic. First of all, they're brutal at contest. They handball quick in traffic. They spread so well. They kick so well. And it was all just in sync for them. And so I don't want to do much of this review without making sure that that's highlighted. And, the total respect is given to what they did, because they were fucking so impressive. There's not really much more to analyze about the game, because really everything I said so far, like, it didn't get any better, got worse. And then that moment of realizing we're going to get torched by 10 goals, and then sitting there in the sun, halftime, go out the front, the MCG, oh my God, the faces on the people, the faces on all of us, completely shell-shocked. It's like we all kind of knew what we were watching, knew what was coming, still went back inside, sat in our seats, and just copped it. And it was torture. It was literal torture. I guess back in the day when you're losing by 10 goals, you're sitting there in hope, like, oh, one day this won't be us. One day this will be worth it. And then that one day comes and you're still losing by 10 goals. But the worst part is you're losing by 10 goals to a team that you're supposed to be ahead of in terms of your development, and you're supposed to be more mature and more experienced than, and they're doing to you what you were hoping you were going to start doing to other teams. Then there's Sard off with a hammy. You got no players on the bench. Like, we're not doing anything after halftime, especially when the injuries start compounding. But do not. I mean, if anyone is going to try and use injuries as an excuse, I think you're a little bit wild in saying that. I mean, injuries is not the reason we lost. We lost the game before the injuries happened. The way in which we came into that game is how we lost the game. The injuries just compounded it and made everything worse, and made any potential comeback just stall. Isn't it fascinating that the week that we announce that Andrew Russell will be retiring or won't be with the club next year, isn't it just amazing, the coincidence and the timing of that? As soon as that happens, that following week, that upcoming week, the injuries hit like that. I mean, to have no one on the bench, or one player on the bench, or whatever it was, just, yeah. Does that mean it's not as bad as what it seemed because we had all the injuries? I think, I don't know what I think about that. There's no positive to take out of yesterday, other than, you know what? You find out a lot about who's going to be there moving forward when things aren't going your way. And the scariest part about that question and that theme is that I think of three players when I think of who is going to be moving forward with us and who showed that they're going to be moving forward with us when things were absolutely not going our way. And those three were Matt Kennedy, a guy who's been perennially overlooked and finally got his chance to play in his preferred position. And then the other two were kids, Lockie Cowan and Ollie Hollins. Then the post-game ensues. walking home, walking to the train station from the MCG, I haven't felt like that since Collingwood 2022, round 23. And so, then we get on the fan cams and, it's really just about holding space for everyone. And so many layers of it all get unpacked, and we're sitting there for 4 hours, longer than the actual game that we're all upset about. Then you see Josh Whittle talk about how they knew that Carlton essentially, they knew that Carlton would not be able to run out fourth quarters. I don't know if he was talking about it in the context of just yesterday or in general, but that was interesting. And away we go, and home we go. 2 games left, and things have turned so drastically in the space of nearly 2 months. And my trust has been broken. They've broken my trust. 11-4, I truly went all in and lived completely in that moment and embraced all of that and was fully supportive of what was happening because of the way in which we got there. We had overcome challenges with injuries early in the season. We had played and beaten teams on the road. We had shown that our best was as good as anyone's best, whether it was Brisbane away, whether it was kicking 9 goals in a quarter, 8 goals in a quarter, 7 goals in a quarter. We had beaten teams who were in form, in the top 4, undefeated. We had done everything. There was no question about the form when they were sitting at 11-4. And I believed that they deserved and earned the right to be trusted. And I was wrong. I thought they had matured. I thought that rather than having to dig themselves out of a hole like last year, they had learnt to continue on with the form, set themselves up for a strong finish to the season, and learn from not just last year, but their entire careers and all the lessons that we've learned and the harsh realities that we've had to live through. And I thought that we were on the way to learning that, and I was wrong about that. I've now learned you just how can you trust the club? And looking back at that too, looking at how the club acted when we got in that position, says a little bit as well. You find out a lot about people and organisations and things when things are not going well and not going their way. And you sort of look at, okay, who's up for the fight. I think you also find out a lot about clubs, and particularly our club, when things started going right and how we started behaving and the arrogance we started showing. As soon as we got a little bit of a taste of being back at the top, and they're all little things, but the whole Campriali twin situation, which ended up being a complete fucking shit show, storm in a teacup. We're still getting the twins. We were always getting the twins. But to create that shit storm, to create that ripple, said a lot. The identity. I got no idea what the identity is. We are a great club with a proud history, a history of winning at all costs, including bending the rules, including match fixing, including false racism allegations, including cheating the salary cap, because it was win at all costs. In order to be perceived as winners, we now want to go through this, back to this. We want to tell people that we're this blue collar club, but we're a white collar organization telling our fans who are blue collar people that we are blue collar. The irony in them wearing blue collars yesterday was just not lost on me as well. Mate, the boys looked exhausted mentally going out yesterday. It was like they had played a game already. There was an 8-day break. You look at the photos of them coming out. Like, I looked in Cripps' eyes. He looked fucking tired. He looked exhausted. And maybe that's easy to say now because it's after the game. But I remember thinking it in the first quarter before it all turned sour. Like, the photos had come out, and I'm like looking at Cripps. I'm like, man, he looks fucking exhausted, man. You know, last week the message coming through. Like, forget about press conference for a second and forget about what Vossi said. That little clip of them in the change rooms after last week, I thought the message of that was to tell the world that we're still together. And I picked up on that straight away. And like, usually in this world that we live in, what you try and really tell everyone and the world is usually what's not going on, is usually what you're trying to cover up. And so the message I got from that little clip last week was, hey, everyone, we're still connected. But I saw the most disconnected version of this group yesterday. And that is the world that we live in. It's fascinating. I'm really sorry for believing in this group. And if that had any influence over you, I'm really sorry for, I did believe. That wasn't fake. I genuinely did believe. I thought what I had seen was it. I'm like, great. Usually when there's good form, it can be questioned. I didn't see any question over the form that we had displayed. Because it didn't come easy. It was difficult. We were pulling away from sides late. They were challenging us. We were injured. It was so clear that it was done the right way. It was done the hard way. There was nothing easy about the form line that we had shown. And so I feel this. I feel this sorrow, and I feel this. I feel not shame. I feel this responsibility. I feel this accountability if one person believed, because I mean, people will message me sometimes throughout the week saying, yeah, thanks for getting me through, and thanks for helping me believe again. I mean, as supporters, what's our job here? Like, what is our job here? What are we here to do? Everyone's got a role to play in this whole organization, this whole club. I mean, players go and perform their roles on game day. Coaches set up the game plan. Administrators do their thing. Support staff do their thing. Fans, what's our role in this? Our role is to support. Our role is also to challenge and question when things aren't going our way. And support doesn't just mean pat on the backs. Support, real support, and real friendship, for example, is where you are given and told what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And the preparation for round 22 by the Carlton Football Club was fucking atrocious. It was disgusting. And every single one of the people involved in preparing for round 22 should be fucking ashamed of themselves. Don't shy away from using words. I'm not sensationalizing anything. That was shameful. Round 22 was a shameful experience for your supporters, the supporters that flew from Queensland, the supporters that cannot even afford to truly be there and compromise on the other things in their life that they probably should be spending their hard-earned on, because we've been led to believe that the more love and the more support that we give, it might help turn things around. What were the players doing during the week? Were every single one of those players doing what they were supposed to be doing throughout the week? Was everyone preparing for that game the way that they should have been preparing for that game? This is why everyone's going to cop it, and they should, coaches as well. But I'm leaning into these players, man. These players, every time it gets too hard, we are told to back off the players because they're just, they're humans. What about the humans that showed up yesterday? What about them? What about the humans that pour everything into the club? What about them? That is, if Geelong earlier in the year was unacceptable, what was that? Like, Michael Voss is a fierce, competitive person. He is. And then, you just watch him maneuver through press conferences. I actually started seeing a little bit of the fierceness in a brief moment when he started talking about, there'll be a response. Ooh, there it was. I thought that was him. And then just as quickly as he said that, he pulled back. This club is more about its perception than what it is, its reality. And take it for someone that got sucked into their perception. Oh, mate, they were 11-4. Mate, what do you mean perception? They were 11-4. That video I showed in the preview of the woman walking and celebrating too early and her opponent walking past her, it's just replaying in my head over and over again. It's Carlton. I thought we'd done enough. Thought we'd got there. Thought we could just celebrate a little bit. Do a little bit of a Usain Bolt and turn to our right and see where everyone else is. And the moment you turn and stop looking ahead is the moment you get caught up to and found out. And now we're managing messages and we're managing communications. Like, how disconnected can you be from what has to be said and what your fans... I understand we're not going to be given exactly what we want, but you've got to have some empathy for your supporters. And we're just so careful with the words that we use. And it's not about coming out and saying, hey, everyone, we're shit. But you've got to give your supporters, your adult supporters, because I feel like we speak to the future generation of supporters really well, but we don't speak a lot to our adult supporters. The competing interests at the Carlton Football Club rear their head all the time, and there are so many competing interests. Where do you want to start? It's a Pandora's box of its own. But my God, what they showed yesterday was just, and really what they've shown, and who, I thought because they had kept games close that they were still in for the fight. And, sometimes you just got to get belted like that for it to all be laid open, and you just rip the Band-Aid off and open up the scar tissue, and only then can you truly move forward, when you are honest and you admit and it's all there and you can't run and you can't hide from it. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to see this week. But it's all about perception. It's all about perception. This is the world we live in. I dated this girl for 8 weeks a few years back. 8 weeks dated this girl. She was, funnily enough, I remember I took her to this Carlton Hawthorn game in 2021. She was a Hawthorn supporter. To be fair, she wasn't even a footy supporter. And then all of a sudden, she's now a Carlton supporter. She's got this big ass audience telling the world she's a Carlton supporter. It's all a lie. The club, they get somewhere and it's all a lie. In actual fact, maybe she suits the Carlton Football Club because the club's full of image as well. Full of it. And it's just such a funny world that we live in. What you tell the world is, what you overtell the world and what you overshare to the world is generally what's not there in your life, because it's generally what you want so much. And I even look back at myself, like I'm telling myself, things are good, like this is it, because I want it so much. I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy the club so much. I want to enjoy this experience so much. I don't want to be miserable supporting this team so much that I'm almost, and I've been doing it, a lot of us have, we've been doing it for years, just telling the world how good we're going to be or how good this player is, because we want them to be that good. We want to be so good. We want to enjoy ourselves. We don't want to be sitting here in pity and watching 74-point losses at the MCG on a Sunday to Hawthorn. So, and then sometimes reality just hits. Sometimes reality just bursts. And until you embrace reality, you can't move forward. So, well, here we are. We suck again. Can it be turned around? Anything can happen. This club has an amazing knack of, soon as I give up, they find something. I don't know what could happen in the next 2 weeks. I don't want to be miserable. I want to enjoy whatever's left of this season for what it is. Whatever they decide to do, they decide to do. But changes will be made. Yeah. There's more. I feel for myself, I've got so much more to offer this world than just the Carlton Football Club. It's a big part of what I love and who I am, but there's so much more to get after in this world than this Carlton Football Club, who don't even really fucking appreciate what we do here. Let's be honest. So, yeah. Too many self-interested beings. It's so crazy what happens when they got a little bit of a taste of success again. So maybe it's a lesson in that we're still not ready for it. Maybe it's just the list. Maybe the list is still not ready. Maybe we've still got more pieces to add. Yeah, maybe. Well, definitely. Well, clearly these pieces aren't going to get it done. They keep breaking down. So, yeah. A lot of thoughts and feelings and emotions going through right now. But I think at the end of the day, we've got this great common love for this football club as supporters. And sometimes it feels like it's the supporters versus the club. Because a lot of us are just holding on to each other. And that's, I think, the shining light of yesterday. I thought the fan cams was the biggest positive of the day. Because I know what I need and where I go and what I need to do and where I need to be when things are really awful. And that's on the fan cams, because that's the place where we all get to just at least be with other people that are feeling real things, feeling those real emotions and that real care factor. And so thanks to everyone who called up and shared their thoughts. I don't think anything of what was said yesterday was toxic at all. I think it was just emotion spilling out. I don't think it was out of hand. I think it was done in a way which, I think there's this perception of fan cams and the like where people are just yelling and screaming. It wasn't that. There was a little bit of animation, but not really. It was just more sadness. So thank you to everyone who shared. Thanks to everyone that tunes in. I don't know what happens after this season, if I'm totally honest with you. There's a lot to think about. But, yeah, while we're here, we've got to enjoy it. So, yeah, there's my fan cam. Thanks for being here. Share with us in comments below about this game and how you're feeling about where things are and how things are going to move forward. And we'll go from there. Go Blues.